to yet another episode of Women in Business. I'm Doreen Kemcha, this is Smart 24 TV, and we are glad to have you as well. Now remember, 3 things that Women in Business is keen on. That is the inspiring journeys of amazing women that we bring on set. And then we also have the mentorship and the linkages to resources. Those are the core 3 areas that we tend to highlight on Women in Business. Now, in this particular episode, we have an amazing, amazing woman. And I love the women that we bring on set because they always come with something new and unique to actually say. So today, we have Mrs. Christine Nankubuge Ndaula, social worker by profession, founder of Dignity Africa. She's also the director of Dignity Junior School. She's a mother. She's a socio-economic development consultant. Welcome.
Thank you, Doreen. It's
Very welcome.
Pleasure having you around, and I'm really humbled to be actually hosted on this show. So I look forward to the interaction, and you have rightly introduced me.
No, we haven't. We're not yet done with. I know for sure, and I think I ought to say that I haven't really. I've just dipped on the surface.
Yes.
But I also know that you have worked with Concern Worldwide.
Yes.
With Uganda Women's Network. Yes. With East African Sub-Regional Support Initiative, YASI. Yes. And also with UNIFEM, which actually evolved into UN Women.
Yes, please.
That's quite an impressive CV.
Sure.
And right now we're in the right hands. You're going to give us all the insight that we need.
Okay.
Christine, I had a recent engagement with Penny from Faithfort. And we had a very interesting discussion, very interesting, amazing conversation that also gets to tell you of how, the societal norms are changing and what the social movements are here and all about, and how basically people are embracing and others are not, embracing that well. Let's just take a very quick look at this clip and then we start off.
It's good to educate, to conscientize people, but it's not my duty to disprove your image of me. Like I can't start teaching you to love me differently because look, I can be myself. There's no debate about the fact that I can ride a boda. Is there a debate? No. Is there a debate around whether I can get you from one place to another? No. So deal with your insecurities and your fears, and then come and ride. If you can't, maybe you're not my client. I also have learned to make peace with the fact that not everyone is for you.
Now, in that particular clip, it's not one taken just out in isolation, because I don't like to do that. It was part of a bigger conversation. But however, within this conversation, we have been looking at different issues of male engagement. We have been looking at how do we approach this male engagement, because male engagement does not occur in isolation. There's lots of different societal norms that are evolving every single day. And every woman, whether on set or outside, that I get to talk about has her own unique challenges. Whether it is accessing capital and starting their businesses, and then when the businesses catch up and really grow, then the spouses begin to tell them, choose, I'm giving you an ultimatum. In your working with women and all these wonderful organizations, what have you seen in regards to male engagement, and is it workable? Is it a one shoe fits all? What have you seen so far?
Well, thank you very much. That sounds very interesting. And I'll speak from my own set of values, and also from what I have observed, and also what I have learned in school, or and seeing, and the fact that I have over 20 years experience. So maybe also this will be very useful to us. And I'll begin from the whole perspective of women's empowerment, women's emancipation. So it's quite interesting, and it's something that really had, because we needed this fundamental change, we needed the transformation, and of course, everything, we are not working in a world that is constant. A lot is changing. There is a lot of, everything is dynamic. And also the knowledge set is also evolving every other time. So just to say that women's empowerment and male engagement, I, for one, I go in for male engagement. And I believe that the way we were created, it's about, a man and a woman. How can we live in harmony together? And of course, there are many things, and we are different, by the way. I do not, much as we say we are the same, but I have looked at children, I have looked at the way animals behave, I have looked at women. We are different. Much as we can go to the same schools, get the same set of knowledge, we can access the same kind of opportunities, but we are definitely different. In that biologically, we are different. But then also there are certain things, but thank God to technology, thank God to the knowledge that we have acquired and skills. It has kind of, it's leveled now. But I believe men and women should work together, whether in business, whether in the development work and all that. We need each other. We do. A man needs a woman. A woman needs a man.
Now, and this is, this is the beautiful part about this conversation, getting insight and having another voice come in. Yes? I spoke to Penny, and Penny mentioned that, it's not all about marriage. Yes, respect, do your marriage thing, and be happy, submit. Yes, but also respect my need not to get married. Now, this is the funny thing, because I'm all for male engagement as well. So I took it out into the public and showed 7 men. Just randomly in different spaces. And I said, just listen to a conversation. Would you encourage your wife to be part of this sentiment? And all 7 men said no. So I said, why? 2 of them told me, you know what, this is just problematic. I want peace with my wife. Those were 2. And then the majority, I think there must have been around 3, said this is chaotic. This is too chaotic. This is not who we are. So I said, can you just give me a little bit of a hint on who we are? And they did not really get into all those details, but they just say this is not who we want to be. This is not who we are, So the sentiment under, and this is all for most of the radical feminists, most of them have that inclination about, take it or leave it. Yes? Whereas I believe with male engagement, it is more about harmony. It is harmony. Can we actually meet halfway within this space? Can I tell you about my challenges? Can I tell you about who we are? And it should not take off anything from you, unless the negative, which I hope is going to be dispelled. Yes? So what is it about radical feminism that is actually not, I believe, pushing out a different norm, but is not working out? Do you think it's crippling the empowerment, women empowerment, or there's something about it? What is it?
Thank you, Doreen. For me, I told you, based on my values, and you've just heard, actually, I've told you I founded Dignity Africa. That word dignity, to me, it determines a lot. How I engage with you, how I engage in my community, how I engage professionally, how I engage when I'm doing my, when I'm doing my women's rights activism. I am an activist, but I'm kind of not an extremist.
Not to the extreme.
I'm not to the extreme. Yes. And whenever I'm kind of going to the extreme, I hold back to my values as me. Does this really... I have been on the streets I've marched to Parliament with placards. I have made all sorts of noise, but then at the same time, I'll not do some things as long as they do not dignify me.
What? We need clarity. What is that extreme you're talking about? What?
For instance,
yes, we need to know.
If I removed my top and I exposed my, my body, to me, that does not give me dignity. It takes away all the dignity from me. To me, as my values, the way I was brought up, the words that I'll use, much as I'm holding this placard, walking to Parliament, to petition the Speaker, I'll dress decently. What comes out of me has to be very decent, very diplomatic, done in the best way. And I've seen this work.
Yes.
I was a part of the team when I was working with UNIFEM in 2006 during the peace talks between the LRA and the government of Uganda. We had a peace caravan. We went with the peace torch all the way to Juba, but we did it with dignity. Yes. And they listened to us.
Yes.
Both the government listened to us, the LRA listened to us, and also the mediator listened to us.
There is always the assumption that the shock value, yes, the shock factor, actually, gets to, a sleeping lion can be, yes, and then all of a sudden you come and you shock it with something, it's forced out of its slumber. So I believe certain times, even as they are using that, whatever, activists, they normally come in, yes, with the vulgarity, they come in, which vulgarity is quote unquote, because they say that this is what it is. Let us not, polish it. And yes. But then they also, the sentiment, I believe the rationale is to see that the shock factor gets the attention that is needed.
It is true, but that shock also, from experience, like I've told you, it has to be done with a certain level of dignity, with diplomacy. I've seen diplomacy winning. I've told you to work with the Eastern African Support Initiative for the Advancement of Women, EAC, and several times we had to negotiate with the East African community, with the legislators, with beyond the Secretariat. On gender issues. But the shock factor should not, because I believe if we went to, for instance, Arusha, we stripped off, we did what, we shouted, and actually over time we have realized as the women's movement, and as I should say it's the women's movement, that certain strategies do not work. We have known also that shocking someone, you can shock someone technically, you can shock someone diplomatically. What do I mean by this? I don't, get your statistics well, get your evidence very well, and evidence could be in terms of information, could be in terms of the people themselves, but have facts. There's nothing that beats even a politician or a technical person like facts with evidence. And I believe, and over time, you see, there is this bit budget, gender responsive budgeting. Because at some point when the women's movement was starting, we would talk about these things, we would move. Personally, right now, I can't go with a placard making, I would rather go with my facts, with my evidence. If possible, get the real women, maybe one or two of them, and, we organize ourselves, walk smartly to Parliament or wherever we put our issues. Let me tell you, the biggest shock to anybody is proving to them that you actually know the subject matter. You have evidence. And it's not about shouting on the streets. And this is how we've been in all the processes I've been involved in. That's how we've managed to get there. But I agree with you, at some point, you need to put for visibility.
You need to put something
You
else.
need to put, and actually we talk about being visible, you know, having the voice for the voiceless, amplifying the voices of women and girls and any vulnerable group. So what am I saying is that you might just decide to have, well, placards, yes, but then how do you also have this information, flyers in the newspapers? You might not have the money, but how do you put this information out there?
The statistics and this different approach, I think even with male engagement, it depends. Is it grassroots? Is it, you know, because they are tiered socially, yes? And even with our different roles that we play, is it legislative? Yes, that would maybe need with the match, and then the statistics would work. Can this approach work for the man in Adjumani or Dokolo or Kabale?
It works. It works.
Coming up with statistics.
Yes, because let me tell you, statistics and evidence. Maybe what I didn't tell you, I was brought up, I grew with my grandmother who mentored me. She rested early this year, but this lady was illiterate. Actually, I always tell people she didn't even know letter A, but of course she knew how to count. That one, she really knew. She was a businesswoman. But this lady could always keep her facts. She kept our reports. I don't know how she would know that this is for Christine Nankopuge, the other one is for so and so. She used to pay her electricity bills. She used to keep all the documents for her children.
What year was that?
When she used to do this? Yes. This was in the 80s, early 80s. And she knew very well. I can give you one trick. For instance, her water bills. She used to make mats. So she would have those ensansa that they use.
The reeds?
The reeds.
The reeds.
Yeah. Yes. Or that string that is used. Yes. So she would have blue or purple for water. Red for electricity. Yes. Then, and even her children were always amazed by how she used to differentiate. She knew all the dates when things were happening. Now, when you talk about someone in Dokolo, someone in Masaka, someone in Chiboga, they are very knowledgeable. They know what, if it is violence against women and girls or domestic violence, they know what has happened. They can tell you how many women have been battered. They can tell you what happened. They can give you the numbers. And much as they might not write them down, but they will have the statistics. Where do you think people, us who say we are literate and we are educated, where do we get this knowledge? We go to the communities. They are the ones who tell us. Actually, I've just left UN Women, but one of the things and the focus on the women's movement right now, we are moving from the national level to move to the grassroots. This is where we are going to have fundamental and all the transformation we are talking about, because they live that life. They have lived it for some, and they are seeing their daughters live it. So if you're talking about addressing women's empowerment, who is the best person to speak to?
The grassroots person.
It is the grassroots person. Are you just going to sit in Kampala and sit and say about 150 people were abused during the lockdown, so many girls got pregnant? You have to go to the community.
And get those
if your information and your statistics is going to be authentic. And even, of course, with consent. So for me, when you say that that cannot work, but I have seen we were working with women networks, grassroots networks at the district level, then at the sub-county level, then at the parish level. We're working with organizations like Uganda Women's Network, NAU, National Association of Women's Organizations in Uganda. But actually, that's what informed UN Women. We realized much as we had the national level engagement, but everything, if you want change and fundamental change, then you have to go to the community.
And this is, I think this is the basis, right? Because even as we are getting to the communities, what approach are we using in male engagement? What approach have you been using before? And has it been working? Because I know that things are evolving. There are things that are changing. Why? Because, let me just give you a sneak peek. right? I was told of this project that was upcountry. It's still quite, it's really doing well under the light. And the very first thing that they said is, when you women come, that's the men, yes, in the north. When you women come here, you fill our wives with all sorts of nonsense, yes? And then they become stubborn, they become big-headed. You see? It's not, now let's leave the part of statistics, let's leave all. You fill the heads of our wives with nonsense, they become big-headed, and we do not trust you. Because if you're here to break our marriages, what can we do? We do not trust you. So that's why I keep on wondering, what particular approach are we using? We have extremities. There is an extreme of complacency, there is another extreme of radical, rebellion with everything. What particular approach is working?
On that continuum, extremists, then this, I'm in the middle of that. And what puts me at the middle of that continuum is the experience, my values, and I want to agree with those men. Because it is very bad to give half-baked information.
Let's just take a short break, actually. Let's take a short break, and we'll be right back after this message.